Hello, today we're going to develop for the PlayStation Portable. I mean, it's a little bit old, but still, why not? We can develop for it, so why shouldn't we? So let's turn this one off and jump to keyboard without face, because I needed the camera to look down on the PlayStation and we need it later. Anyhow, let's start out with coding a bit and then we jump to download the compiler. Actually, I should have started with downloading the compiler, but since I opened the editor, let's code up something. And we will start with PSP debug screen printf hello PlayStation Portable. There we go. We should also add in display wait we blank start, which means that when we are drawing on the display starts to draw from the top and then it continues drawing until the bottom. That's the old kind of CRT displays, but works same with the newer ones. We're going to wait until it starts to redraw. We wait for the vertical blank. The vertical blank in CRT was when it blanked out the screen. When it had been drawing everything, then it blanked everything out. That was after that it was the vertical blank. Anyhow, we'll wait for that. It's so you don't get tearing. So if you have a screen and you draw half of it, then the screen restarts and you get a tear in it, and you have seen it in video games. So we have to wait for that, and then we will do a print debug, and to do that we need to include PSP kernel and include PSP debug. And now we need to be able to compile this also. So let's start with downloading some software. So we need the minimalist PSP SDK, and you can find it on SourceForge. Go to Files, I have a big download button here, but you go to Files, and it says download latest version 0.11.11 revision 2 or 3, whatever it says 2.3R. Not going to use that one because I got error with that one. We're going to go into, let's see what it was called, SDK dev pack, and go down to version 10 and download that one instead. And here we have different versions. Still says download version 0.11 here, but 0.10 is the one we want. PSP SDK setup. I have already downloaded it, so let's not wait for that. We just start the installer. There we go, we have the installer. The reason I don't want the latest one is because include path seems to be messed up. I get an error on the newer one, I don't get an error on the version before that. So let's keep to the 0.10 instead of 0.11. If I had time I could probably figure it out, but I didn't feel to spend the time on it when I don't need to. So there we go, now it's installed. We can go and check it out. So under C you got a PSP SDK, and on the PSP SDK you got a bin. Here's a compiler. You under C PSP SDK you got the PSP. On the PSP you got an SDK, and on the SDK you got the lib, and that's your libraries. Also, if you back up to PSP SDK, PSP, you also got lib, and that's we have some few other libraries. You need libraries from both of those. I think the PSP lib we're in right now is more third-party libraries, and the SDK lib is more libraries directly regarding the PSP. So that's the first thing we need to download. Second thing we need to download to do this is we need to execute the program on something. I mean, let's start with an emulator. So we go to PSP with PPSSPP. Very funny spelled. And you can buy it if you want to, or you can just download the free one, and I'm going to take the free one. And like before, I already downloaded before, but this one actually downloads fast, so that's also okay. Don't need the browser anymore. Let's close that one. And I want English, yes. Install. View readme, no. Well, launch the emulator, sure. And we got the emulator running. Okay, so now let's now have our program. It's saved. So let's jump into the MSys window. We installed the MSys before, and I said it was a great console window. I still stand by that. So download that one if you want to use that one. Else use something else. I like it. So we're going to go to C PSP SDK bin PSP GCC, and this is now called a cross compiler, which means that you are compiling on your Windows machine, but the result of the compilation is not for Windows. It's not for an Intel CPU. It's for an ARM CPU. It's for the CPU that's in the PlayStation instead. So we're going to specify the include path. We need to specify what firmware version we're compiling for. And in this case, it's 1.5 or 150. And our file we need to compile, and then we need the libraries. PSP SDK, PSP, SDK lib, and then we need a few libraries. PSP debug, PSP display, because we're going to use the display soon. PSP GE, a graphic engine. And the C library and the PSP user. There's a PSP kernel also, but we are in user space, so let's use the user. Now we have a compiled version of our program. There we go. And this one says that it's compiled for MIPS. On PSP, we need to create something called the param SFO. So we need to make that one, so PSP SDK bin, and we need to make SFO. And here we can provide a name, so it's hello PSP in this case, and param SFO. And this param SFO contains data that the PlayStation needs in its menu system to display what program we have. So you can actually see here in this binary dump that it says hello PSP there, and a few other things. I have no idea what other things do, but you need to execute this command. Next command we're going to do is say PSP SDK bin, and we're going to do a PSP strip. And we're going to strip the executable, and we need to output it to something, so let's call it stripped elf. There we go. We need to do another command here that I actually don't know what it's for. The strip removes any debugging symbols or anything like that. That's the PSP strip. The PSP fix up import, I do not know why it's needed. It apparently fixes up some imports, but who knows. And now we got the first error, so apparently I forgot something, and I did. The main program here. We need to specify a line here. So let's do that. We're going to tell that utility what kind of program we're making. So we're making the hello PSP program, same as in the SFO file. Then we specify a PSP module user, and you have kernel here also. So if you want to create a kernel thing, but we're creating something in user space, which means we want to run an executable. The kernel is the operating system underneath. So modules for drivers and things like that. Then you have a major version and a minor version, and our version is 1.0, so let's set the 1 and 0. There we had a recompile, and after that we needed to strip the file. After that we needed to fix the import. So now the import has been fixed. We need a SDK again, and we need to pack our program for the PlayStation. The PlayStation needs to have a file that's called eboat.pbp. So let's specify that. After that, we need to add in the param SFO. That's why we created that one before. And after this, now we need to specify 5 nulls. These nulls are for icons. If you want an icon to be displayed that like showing our logo of our game when we start it, but we will not specify anything of that right now. There's also as icon press, background, video in the background, and a sound that's going to play when we hover over the game in the PlayStation. We're not going to use any of it. Then we have our stripped elf file, and lastly we can add in a resource file. We're not adding a resource file. There we go. And now we're just going to run this one. So I'm going to specify the file to the emulator. And after the emulator, I'm going to specify the eboat. And that one didn't display anything. Oh, it failed. PBP. Okay, that failed. Why did that fail? Oh yeah. It failed because we needed to initialize the debug screen. Forgot that. And at this part, we're starting to execute this command all over and over again. So it's probably a good idea to actually create some sort of make file for it. Call it build. And we will not create a real make file, we just create a build file. Okay, so save a bit of typing. I already created this PSP build.sh that contains first the compilation of the program, then creating the param SFO, then stripping the file, then fixing the imports, then building the eboot package, and lastly we just call the emulator, which means that if I just write a dot, I means I can source this file, meaning execute what's in it, and I need to specify // for the file and PSP build sh, and will execute it. So here we go. It built the program, and just to demonstrate that, I guess we change this to something. Not that important, but anyhow. So there we got the emulator running, and it displays PlayStation Portable. So let's now go to the actual PlayStation Portable. So then we have the PlayStation Portable. We're going to go to the left side here, and it has USB connection. Oh, you need a hacked PlayStation Portable. By the way, it's quite easy. I won't show you how to put it in homebrew mode, but you have to Google that. And you connect it, and it connects up. So here we got the PlayStation connected to the PC. And under the PlayStation, we're going to go to PSP, going to go to game, going to create a directory. Let's call it hello PSP. Jump into that directory. Then we need to browse up our created file. Going to select that file and just drag it in. So that's all. Now we should eject it here. But I also noticed that you can actually just cancel, it says back there. You can cancel from the PlayStation. Seems to be fine. You should eject from Windows, but yeah. So now let's go to games and let's go to the memory stick. And let's start our program. And there you go. We have the same thing that we ran in our emulator running on our PlayStation Portable. One thing that we do not have is any way to quit out of the program. Normally when you press home you should get a menu that says like, do you want to quit? We do not get that, so we need to force the power off, wait until the power turns off, and you can turn it on again. So now it's booting and we are back. So we need to fix that, of course, because that's annoying in the long run. We need to fix that. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up some callbacks. And it's called exit callback. And in the end, we're going to tell the system that we actually want to stop running. So exit game, kernel exit game. And instead of just running for forever here, we're going to do is running. And on this one, I'm actually following an example. I could copy paste it in, but I will type it, because why not? If you have been looking until now, you think that's probably a good idea. You need a static int exit request turn exit request, and then we need a way to set this exit request, or more correctly unset it. So is running, we return this one, and if we set it to 0 some way, then the program will terminate. So let's call that one. And since I have the example there, let's copy paste it in. Let's not be annoying to typing this in when I'm actually not live coding that part. I will do a full walkthrough of it though. There we go. So we're going to set up our exit callback. We go into exit callback. We're going to tell the kernel create thread. Just name the thread anything you want. We're going to say when this thread is started in the kernel, we're going to call callback thread. I have no idea what those two parameters do. We get the thread ID. With the thread ID, we can handle it, so we can stop it, start it, and things like that. We're going to go to kernel start thread, thread ID. That's probably arguments to the thread. And there we got the thread. The function the thread is going to execute more correctly, and that was arguments to the thread. In that thread, we're going to kernel create callback, and we're going to create the exit callback. And the exit callback, when it's executed, going to jump to exit callback. So let's see the PlayStation again. When this button is called and we get the menu on here that says, do you want to exit? When we select exit on that one, then this event will trigger in the PlayStation and this method will be called. So after we have created this callback, we're going to register it in the kernel register exit callback. We're doing that. And then this thread is going to be put to sleep. In the exit callback, then we just set exit request is 0. This one is set to 0. This loop will terminate. That will no longer happen, and we will quit the game. Let's save that, go and compile it with our nice build script. So now let's transfer over this to the PlayStation and see if it works. So in the PlayStation, we go to USB connection. In the Windows, the PlayStation pops up. We select game, we select hello PSP. We open up our, it's on the workspace, live coding. There we go. Replace. On the PlayStation, we quit out from USB after transfer. Just wait a bit and we transfer over. We start it. And here we have the same program as before. Press the home button. You can switch volumes up and down. You can choose to exit the game. Let's choose to exit the game. It says please wait. And we are back in the PlayStation. So now you can now you know how to download the build environment. It's called a cross compiler. Now you know how to build on it and run on it, and the first stumbling block of what to do to quit your program on it, because that's kind of important. Good luck.